Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Kala Chanji Radha Kala Chanji Radhe. Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Good morning, devotees. My name is Manjari Gopika Devi Dasi, and today we will be hearing from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, chapter 22. We'll cover verses 27 through 49, focusing on verse 32. And before we begin, I ask for your blessings, that I may speak something pleasing to my spiritual master, to Srila Prabhupada, and to all of the devotees. Let us all together chant the invocation prayers. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim sarvasvatim vyasyam tato jayamudiraye. Nashtaprayesha badreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so we're finishing up chapter 22 today. And as I mentioned, we'll cover verses 27 through 49, and then we'll circle back, focusing on verse 32. In the interest of time, we will not read aloud all of these verses. Instead, I'll ask those present here to read certain verses, and I'll summarize the others. Before we get to that, just a brief recap of where we are, because again, we're coming in halfway through the chapter and we're wrapping it up. So far in this chapter, we're hearing about the dynasty and the genealogical lineage. So far, Shukadeva Goswami has outlined the branches of the lunar dynasty all the way down to Shantanu, Bhishma, Vyasadeva, and then Dhritarashtra, Pandu, and Vidura. And we just heard that Gandhari gave birth to 100 sons, headed by Duryodhana. So verse 27, the combined verse of 27-28, it now picks up with the sons born from Pandu's wives. So do we have a second mic? Thank you, Josie Saki. So if I could have the devotees read this combined verse, and then I'll summarize the ones after that. So text 27-28.
Hare Krishna. So text 27-28.
Yes, this one right here.
Pandu was restrained from sexual life because of having been cursed by a sage, and therefore his 3 sons, Yudhisthira, Bhima, and Arjuna, were begotten through the womb of his wife Kunti by Dharmaraj, and by the demigod controlling the wind, and by the demigod controlling the rain. Pandu's second wife, Madri, gave birth to Nakula and Sahadev, who were begotten by the 2 Ashvini Kumaras. And the 5 brothers, headed by Yudhisthira, begot 5 sons through the womb of Draupadi, and these 5 sons were your uncles.
Thank you. Isn't it thrilling to hear about people that you know? That's how I feel. Oh, I know them. I know the Pandavas. I love these guys. So I'm going to summarize text 29 through 31. Okay, after describing the 5 sons born to Draupadi, Shukadeva Goswami continues by listing the other sons the Pandavas had through various wives. Yudhishthira had a son named Devika, Bhimashen fathered Gatotkacha and Sarvagata. Sahadev had a son named Suhotra. So devotees, if you could please read 32 through 35. Stop it.
Read 32? Or
Yeah, start with verse 32. We can pass the mic around if anybody else wants to partake. 32, 33, 34, and 35.
Nakula begot a son named Namrita through his wife named Karenumati. Similarly, Arjuna begot a son named Iravan through his wife named Ulupi, and through the daughter of who is known as the daughter of the Nagas, and the son of Babhushravana by the womb of the process of Manipura. Babhushravana became the adopted son of the king of Manipura.
My dear King Parikshit, your father Abhimanyu was born from the womb of Subhadra as the son of Arjuna. He was the conqueror of all Atiratas, those who could fight with 1,000 charioteers. From him, by the womb of Uttara, the daughter of Viradraja, you were born.
After the Kuru dynasty was annihilated in the battle of Kurukshetra, you also were about to be destroyed by the Brahmastra, atomic weapon released by the son of Dronacharya. But by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, you were saved from death.
My dear king, your 4 sons, Janmajaya, Shrutasena, Bhimasena, and Ugrasena, are very powerful. Janmajaya is the eldest.
Thank you. I'm going to summarize the next several verses. The next one that I'd ask the devotees to read is text 44. So I'm going to summarize 36 through 43. So Shukadev Goswami then speaks of Parikshit Maharaj's son, Janamejai, we just mentioned. Because Parikshit will later be killed by the snake Takshaka, Janmejai becomes overwhelmed with grief and anger and responds by performing the Sarpa Yagya, a sacrifice meant to destroy all the snakes in the world. Janamejai, it is described, will also conquer many regions and perform Ashvamedha Yagyas. Because of these horse sacrifices, and because he accepts Tura, the son of Kalash, as his priest, he becomes known by the title Turaga Medhashat. After Janamejai, Shukadev Goswami, he traces the royal succession through many, many generations. His son Shatanika becomes exceptionally learned, studying the Vedas under Yajnavalkya, military science under Kripacharya, and transcendental knowledge from Shaunaka Rishi. From him comes Sahasranika, then Ashwamedhaja, Ashim Krishna, and Nemi Chakra. When the city of Hastinapur is later flooded by the Ganges, Nemi Chakra relocates the capital to Kaushambi. The dynasty continues. He lists a long line of kings showing the continued unfolding of this lunar dynasty that began with such illustrious personalities as the Pandavas. Dear devotees, if I could please have you read text 44 and text 45.
The son of Mahirana will be Dandapani, and his son will be Nimi, from whom King Kshemaka will be born. I have now described to you the moon god's dynasty, which is the source of Brahmanas and Kshatriyas and is worshipped by demigods and great saints. In this Kali Yuga, Kshemaka will be the last monarch. Now I shall describe to you the future of Magadha dynasty. Please listen.
I'll summarize the final texts of this chapter 46 through 49. So having completed the description of the lunar dynasty, Shukadev then shifts to the future kings of the Magadha dynasty, coming from the line of Jarasandha, beginning with Sahadev, Jarasandha's son. The lineage continues all the way through many illustrious kings, culminating in who is mentioned here, which is Subala. And each of these kings plays a role in maintaining the political landscape of Bharatvarsha after the time of the Kurukshetra war. Finally, in the concluding verse of this chapter, Shukadev concludes by saying that from Subala will arise Sunita, then Satyajit, Vishvajit, and Rupunajai. This entire line descends from Brihadrat, and this dynasty, it is said, will continue to rule for 1,000 years. Hari Bol. Thank you. Let us go now to the focus verse today, which is text 32. Karanumatyam nakulo Naramitram tatarjuna Iravantam ulupyam vai Sutayam babruvahanam Manipura pate sopi Tatputra putrika sutaha. I apologize if that meter wasn't technically correct because there are extra lines in this verse, but it's what I have to work with. So who else would like to chant? Karumatyam nakulo Naramitram tatarjuna Iravantam ulupyam vai Sutayam babruvahanam Manipura pate sopi Tatputra putrika sutaha Karanem nakulo Naramitram tatarjuna Iravantam ulupyam vai Sutayam babruvahanam Manipura pate sopi Tatputra putrika sutaha. All right, let's move on to synonyms. Shall we do them together since we can see them together? Karunumatyam, in the wife named Karunumati. Nakula, Nakula. Naramitram, a son named Naramitra. Tata, also. Arjuna, Arjun. Iravantam, Iravan. Ulupyam, in the womb of the Naga Kanya named Ulupi. Vai, indeed. Sutayam, in the daughter. Babruvahanam, a son named Babruvahan. Manipur Pate, of the king of Manipur. Sa, he. Api, although. Tat Putra, the son of Arjuna. Putrika Suta, the son of his maternal grandfather. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Nakula begot a son named Naramitra through his wife named Karanumati. Similarly, Arjuna begot a son named Iravan through his wife known as Ulupi, the daughter of the Nagas, and a son named Babruvahan by the womb of the princess of Manipur. Babruvahan became the adopted son of the king of Manipur. Purport. It is to be understood that Parvati is the daughter of the king of the very, very old mountainous country known as the Manipur state. 5,000 years ago, therefore, when the Pandavas ruled, Manipur existed, as did its king. Therefore, this kingdom is a very old, aristocratic Vaishnav kingdom. If this kingdom is organized as a Vaishnav state, this revitalization will be a great success because for 5,000 years, this state has maintained its identity. If the Vaishnav spirit is revived there, it will be a wonderful place, renowned throughout the entire world. Manipur Vaishnavs are very famous in Vaishnav society. In Vrindavan and Navadvip, there are many temples constructed by the king of Manipur. Some of our devotees belong to the Manipur state. The Krishna consciousness movement, therefore, can be well spread in the state of Manipur by the cooperative efforts of the Krishna conscious devotees. Prabhupada Ki Jai. I often forget that there actually was a time where the entire world was Krishna conscious, a period of thousands of years where the entire world was Krishna conscious. I don't know if I'm alone in my forgetfulness, but there was a time when great kings like the Pandavas mentioned in these verses and the dynasty that ruled for 1,000 years, they ruled not for their own gratification, but as pure devotees of the Lord, the entire world. And how peaceful, prosperous, and harmonious the world must have been at that time. In today's verse, we hear of Arjuna's son, Babruvahan, and we're reminded through Prabhupada's purport that even places like Manipur were examples of that ancient Vaishnav kingdom. The entire world was structured around Dharma and leadership meant spiritual responsibility. But in Kali Yuga, we forget this. We've become so accustomed to chaos and scandal and hypocrisy that we can hardly imagine a God-centered society. Srila Prabhupada spoke very strongly about modern governance. He said democracy becomes demon crazy when voters have no spiritual education. Because what will they vote for? Whoever promises the most sense gratification. Real Vedic leadership was not decided by masses driven by material desires. Kings were chosen by spiritually advanced Brahmins, by those who were selfless, scripturally learned, and God conscious. Their only interest was who will uphold Dharma, who will represent the will of the Supreme. So naturally, society flourished. But in today's world, as long as people have separate material interests, any kind of unity is superficial. Srila Prabhupada often pointed to the example of the United Nations. Its purpose was noble. It was created at the end of World War II, and its purpose was to end war forever and create a peaceful world. Yet since the formation of the United Nations, the world has seen conflict after conflict. The Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Iran-Iraq War, the Pakistan and India wars, multiple conflicts in the Middle East, all kinds of genocides, rebellions in Africa. Practically every part of the world has had war and conflict since the establishment of the United Nations. And these nations that are part of the UN Assembly sit together in a hall, in an assembly, but they are not united on a higher principle. Each nation is only thinking, what can I get out of this? What's in it for me? And Prabhupada explains that if unity is based on a personal or national advantage, it will fail. Because real unity requires a shared center. And without Krishna as the center, unity becomes temporary, fragile, and very easily broken. The Bhagavatam states, anyone who considers the land of his birth worshipable is no better than a cow or an ass. Unless we accept Krishna as the proprietor, as the enjoyer, and the well-wisher of everyone, then there is no foundation for peace. Srila Prabhupada directly addressed this illusion. In a lecture, he said, everyone is thinking it is my country, my family, my property. This my is illusion. And he gives Krishna's own peace formula from Bhagavad Gita 5.29. I'm sure many of us know it. We can say it together. Bhoktaram yagyatapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam gyatfamam shantim richati. A person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. Srila Prabhupada said, the politicians and diplomats are trying to establish peace, but real peace is not happening. The defect is that the root is wrong. We can see this example in the scriptures as well. We hear in the Srimad Bhagavatam, when the Devatas were desperate, they approached Lord Vishnu, right? They were desperate for peace and relief. They approached Lord Vishnu, who instructed them to make a temporary peace with their enemies, the Asuras, to churn the ocean for nectar. Externally, the demons and the demigods cooperated. Internally, they hated each other. Their unity was based only on self-interest. We want nectar, let's work together so we get what we want. And this is the perfect allegory for material relationships, His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj explained. Material unity equals cooperation as long as my desire is satisfied. If cooperation serves my enjoyment, you are my friend. If cooperation obstructs my enjoyment, you are my enemy. We see in politics, allegiances shift overnight. In society, friendships break over small disagreements and misunderstandings. This is because material friends and material enemies both arise from the same place, my desire to enjoy. This is why Srila Prabhupada said there is no real unity on the material platform. And Srila Prabhupada wrote, nor can we get any relief through politicians, diplomats, or philosophers. They have tried so much, but nothing has become fruitful. He continues, take the United Nations. They hoped for peace, but the fighting is still going on. And of course, some 50 plus years after Srila Prabhupada wrote that statement, his words, of course, still ring true. Spiritual life, however, is not based on enjoyment. It's based on service. His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj says, people sometimes come to a temple to enjoy the temple, the atmosphere, the food, the kirtan. That's natural in the beginning. But he says, but real spiritual life begins when we shift to, how can I serve Krishna? How can I serve the Vaishnavas? Service is the only true basis of unity. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 30, Verse 8, the Lord tells the Prachetas, all of you are engaged in one occupation, devotional service. And here in our community, we have so many backgrounds. Students, professionals, parents, people with PhDs. We have people with high school educations, different cultures, personalities, countries of origin, and different propensities. But we have one occupation, all of us, to please Krishna. When that is our shared center, our acharyas explain differences don't threaten unity, they enrich it. Unity breaks when I want to be the enjoyer, I want to be the controller, I want recognition, I want it my way. Unity forms when we give up these things for what Krishna wants. That is when love and trust grow. And we should acknowledge something, of course, that unity is especially difficult in Kali Yuga, because this age is defined by what? Quarrel and hypocrisy. The whole atmosphere in which we are living pushes us towards ego, reactivity, and misunderstanding. Srila Prabhupada said that even two brothers struggle to remain united in this age. So what to speak of nations, institutions, or movements? That is why Krishna consciousness is not just a philosophy, it is the medicine for the age of Kali. When we chant together, serve together, and work together for Krishna, we rise above the current of Kali and experience a unity that is not possible on the material platform. Srila Prabhupada said this movement is based on love and trust. But love and trust are impossible when we hold on to bodily designations. I'm from this caste, you're from that one, you're educated, I'm not. I'm wealthy, you're simple, I'm senior, you're junior. These are material identities that are rooted in the bodily conception. Spiritual unity comes when we say none of this matters. We are all spirit souls, we are all servants of Krishna, and we are all cooperating to fulfill the desire of Krishna and the spiritual master. Devotees will always have differences. But this is not a problem. Srila Prabhupada said, even among great devotees, there will be disagreements. And that is good as long as our shared purpose remains the same, to serve Krishna. His Holiness Radha Swami Maharaj explains that disagreements are good as long as we keep the purpose the same and our motivation is the same, which is we're doing it for Krishna. I'm not doing it for my ambition or my prestige. We may just have disagreements on the details of service. He said something I really liked. He said, there must be disagreements because we are all jivatmas. We are all individual souls. Therefore, we're all going to have different ways of doing things. He says, and if it was not like that, we would all be Mayavadis. In the spiritual world, Maharaj noted, everyone has a different way of doing things. He explains that Mother Yashoda is trying to keep Krishna at home and protect him. And the gopis are trying to attract Krishna to leave home in the middle of the night. The gopis are saying, Krishna, come out, let's dance, we're waiting for you. And Mother Yashoda is saying, Krishna, stay home, be a good boy, listen to your mother. Why do you do this to me? Total difference of opinions. The gopis and Mother Yashoda never agree. Mother Yashoda wants Krishna home the whole night. The gopis want him out the whole night. There's conflict, but they are both doing this for one reason, to please Krishna in the way that they best can. And therefore, you do not find that they are hating each other. They love each other. So the disagreement becomes irrelevant. This is the secret. Disunity on lower principles is natural. Unity on higher principles is essential. If we lose that, Kali immediately enters with quarrel and hypocrisy. Srila Prabhupada established ISKCON as the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, not just as a temple organization, but as a global movement meant to uplift the entire world, to make the entire world Krishna conscious again. Just as we're hearing about these thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years in the Bhagavatam, when the entire world was Krishna conscious, that is why Prabhupada established ISKCON in Kali Yuga. So I wanted to read the 7 purposes of ISKCON. And sometimes it's kind of boring when somebody's just reading to you. So if anybody wants to Google on their phones to read along, the 7 purposes of ISKCON, verbatim, as Srila Prabhupada wrote them. Because again, he established ISKCON to make the whole world Krishna conscious again. Thank you, Tulsi Saki is going to pull it up on the board here. Okay, number 1, to systematically propagate spiritual knowledge to society at large and to educate all people in the techniques of spiritual life in order to check the imbalances of values in life and to achieve real unity and peace in the world. Number 2, to propagate a consciousness of Krishna as it is revealed in the great scriptures of India, Bhagavad Gita, and Srimad Bhagavatam. 3, to bring the members of the society together with each other and nearer to Krishna, the prime entity, thus developing the idea within the members and humanity at large that each soul is part and parcel of the quality of Godhead Krishna. Number 4, to teach and encourage the Sankirtan movement, congregational chanting of the holy name of God, as revealed in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. 5, to erect for the members and for society at large a holy place of transcendental pastimes dedicated to the personality of Krishna. 6, to bring the members closer together for the purpose of teaching a simpler, more natural way of life. 7, with a view towards achieving the aforementioned purposes, to publish and distribute periodicals, magazines, books, and other writings. These 7 purposes are instructions to us. They define what unity means for us. In this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, our acharyas explain that there is no greater service we can render than teaching people how to unite under the banner of the holy name. You can perform austerities in the Himalayas or live as a renunciate in the Dham, but the greatest benefit to society is to unite people in Kirtan. Prabhupada says that Krishna consciousness is already there in everyone's heart. It simply has to be awakened. And that is what the Sankirtan movement does. To unite together under the divine, auspicious influence of the holy name is the only means of counteracting the influence of quarrel and hypocrisy in Kali Yuga, in this age. And our acharyas explain that the power of doing it together is the power that most of all attracts Krishna. And as His Holiness Pranna Swami Maharaj says, and it is the hardest thing to do. To do it together, yes, and it is the hardest thing to do. To do anything together with anybody in Kali Yuga is very difficult, because in due course of time, we come up with our own ways of doing things and opinions, and there's a tendency to disunite. But if we give up pride and the desire to be the enjoyer, if we put aside our personal preferences for the mission of Guru and Krishna and concentrate on our one shared occupation, then our disagreements don't become divisive. They become a means of conversation, and they become spiritually enlivening. That is what I have prepared. I shared to the best of my ability what I have heard on this topic. So I would love to hear from all of you with your comments or corrections or questions. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thanks so much. And hearing all the 7, principles of our society was very nice to hear it again and again. From darkness we go to light, right? So I just wanted to make a comment a little about the purport about Manipur. So in the early years, it was like 89, maybe even 90 when we were here, His Holiness Bhakti Swarup Damodar Swami, who was born in Manipur, came all over to 13 different countries and put on performances of Manipur dancers.
Wow.
Holiness Vyasa Puja tomorrow, Jai Jai. But many amazing devotees that serve Srila Prabhupada. And Bhakti Swarup Damodar was one of them.
Wow.
Prabhupada actually gave him $10,000 in the day to promote his preaching to the scientific community.
Right.
And also, just on a side note, he formed a school in Northeast India, teaching like 4,000 students in alignment with what you've discussed to receive education on Vaishnav spiritual values. So that was a lot that you spoke about today, so I thought I would just share that.
Thank you so much.
Share
Thank
that.
you so much. I really appreciate that. I did, when I was preparing for class, I did try to research a little bit into Manipur, but it
Yes.
seemed like it would require a deep dive that I unfortunately didn't.
Anyway, I just
Wasn't
thought I would
prepared to go
share
that route. So I really appreciate you sharing that. That's so wonderful. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hi, Krishna Manjari Gopika. Thank you for a nice class. Yes, I would like to second the mention of Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj. His wonderful bhajans, his voice. I think Srila Prabhupada also named him Bhakti Swarup Damodar because of his beautiful chanting. And he is, mentioned here in the purport, and so some of our devotees belong to the state of Manipur. It's a direct reference to him, so very wonderful opportunity to glorify him. And in these purports, I was also appreciating how Shukadev, he started that reference yesterday, that and I, Shukadev, am Vyasa's son. And then he is telling Parikshit Maharaj that, he's, like you mentioned, he's your father, your grandfather. And it's very interesting also to note that he's also going past the time that they were speaking. And he mentioned also that these will be your king, the
Right.
kings, and and this is how it will end. So that's like so stunning. That he's mentioning, of course they are three kalagya, they know past, present, and future, but just to see it unfold was also very astounding. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. That is very powerful. Kind of gives me goosebumps.
Yes, thank you, Prabhu. I'd like to appreciate what Tulsi Saki Mataji was saying also about Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj. As you know, my daughter was there last year, so we went to visit. And we stayed in a temple in Sabang, and there's many disciples of Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj there. And one of them told me the story how for a period, I think maybe 10 or 12 years, ISKCON cannot go into Indonesia. For some reason, the government became very antagonistic towards the movement. So when he went there, because of his gentle demeanor, but at the same time his respectability as a Vaishnava, he was able to, like, one by one meet with leaders, and they just became overwhelmed by his character. And so then gradually, I think over a year time, the whole government changed, and they allowed devotees to come in and start establishing temples. So he was such a wonderful Vaishnava.
Wow. Thank you.
And I just want to really appreciate how you brought up the 7 points of ISKCON. I think, and I just had kind of one question. Maybe you could just elaborate upon. You mentioned how it's very difficult in Kali Yuga for us to get along. And I was just reflecting, in those 7 principles, Srila Prabhupada talks about establishing a holy place of pilgrimage as one of the items
Mhm.
for the society of Krishna consciousness. And he also talked about one of the purposes to promote a simple lifestyle. So this is coming from New Vrindavan, this is one of our challenges, is, one camp of devotees are very strongly, working towards self-sufficiency, and you have another group of devotees who are working very strongly towards establishing a holy place of pilgrimage. And sometimes these devotees seem to get into arguments. I was wondering how if you have any suggestions on how that could be resolved.
You're joking. I feel that perhaps, Prabhu, you might be able to share in your experience what has worked, seeing as you have been in ISKCON far, far longer than I have, and you've lived in that community. Sometimes, I think it depends, and probably the guidance of seniors and a spiritual master is helpful. But I was listening to a class the other day. I can't remember which king was it. Was it King Peru? I don't think it was him. But there's a king in the Bhagavatam who found that the best way to create peace in the kingdom was to create different states, and have them run separately rather than one continuous line of kind of rules and regulations, so that people could best function according to, their propensities, and there wasn't so much conflict. And so I think that might be relevant in certain situations when, again, we have one shared occupation, which is to please Krishna, which is to please Srila Prabhupada, but perhaps our talents and our propensities and our interests, what we feel passionate about contributing to ISKCON, may better work if we are more with like-minded people who are serving that mission. I would imagine that conflict isn't ever something where your service is wrong and my service is right, but perhaps with prioritization of time and resources, it might be best if those two groups are a bit more separate. That is what just came to my mind. Of course, I am very, very junior. So if anybody else would have thoughts on that, I think it could be an interesting conversation. And including you, Kripamoya Prabhu.
I think in one of the things you said earlier, I think is very relevant to this discussion too, as you said that differences provoke discussion. And what does Krishna say? That I am not in Vaikuntha, nor am I in the heart of the meditating yogi. I'm wherever my devotees come together. Mm-hmm. So if we come together in that spirit of discussion, that you may see things one way, I may see things another way, but if by coming together in that spirit we invoke the presence of Krishna, actually Krishna is the ultimate peacemaker. And so I like that, what you said about that.
That's a good point. I was actually thinking on the way here, His Grace Vraj Bihari Prabhu, he's done workshops on conflict resolution, and one thing that he has said is that conflict isn't necessarily bad. In his experience, something really beautiful can come out of a conflict because it forces you to really sit down with a person and hear what their motivations are, what their intention is, and then you have to explain yours, and then you reach a resolution, and in the end, you get a better understanding of the person, and it actually strengthens your relationship, and that improves your service, right? If you understand someone else's heart and mindset and their intention, because we know devotees' intentions are always good. So that's what you made me think of. His Grace Gokulananda Prabhu.
Thank you, Kripamaya Prabhu. It was so wonderful to hear from you. And thank you for the wonderful class. And the theme is so appealing. This morning, I happened to look at a short video posted by His Grace Mahatma Prabhu, and in that video, he quoted Srila Prabhupada. I'm just paraphrasing. So Prabhupada said, it seems, that it hurts me more to see devotees fighting within ISKCON than someone breaking the regulative principles. So I don't know the reference. In the comments, I saw Kavichandra Swami asking, what is the reference? But the point is, Prabhupada several times said the threat to ISKCON is not from outside, it is within, right? And I also remember one, I don't remember who said this, but this is a wonderful analogy in context to this theme. He said, in a body of water, if you throw one stone, then there comes out a nice ripple. But you can keep throwing hundreds and thousands of stones at the same or different places. There will be hundreds and thousands of ripples coming in harmony. But now you take two stones and you throw them at two different places, there will be two ripples coming and they will clash with each other. So meaning, when there is one common center, there is peace and harmony. And when there is more than one center, then there are conflicts. So throwing two different stones is like, you listen to me, and the other person says, you listen to me. And that is what creates two different centers. But if we keep only one common center, which is Krishna, then there is natural peace and harmony. And another comment about Manipur, I just thought of, there is one beautiful book which talks about Uttar Mahabharat, meaning post the great war of Mahabharat, where it is said Maharaj Yudhishthir, he happened to perform the horse sacrifice, Ashwamedha Yagya, and then Krishna and Arjuna, they go with the horse, and they come to the state of Manipur, where Arjuna is challenged by his own son, Babruvahan. And Babruvahan at that time didn't know that this is my father. And Babruvahan, like Karna, had a wasted desire to be the best archer in the entire universe. So he also happened to have Mother Ganga's blessing. Mother Ganga was sort of angry with Arjuna because she thought Arjuna was the instrument in killing her son, Bhishmadev. So he had the Gangastra, and with long story short, with Gangastra, he beheads finally Arjuna. So his head is chopped off. And when his mother comes to know, Babruvan's, she comes to the scene and she sees, and she reveals that this is your father, you have killed your own father. So then Krishna comes, and then he finds out a solution. So it's a Naga state, the serpent state, right? So the queen of the state had a jewel. So that jewel Krishna asked Babruvahan to place between his torso and his head, and then he's revived, he comes back to life. So that's how the name Manipur, Mani means jewel.
Oh, yeah.
The whole context to the name is this story.
Thank you. Yes, Mother Nandini, and then Her Grace Mother Kunti has a question. We'll answer.
Okay, so I was just thinking about, your mention about Braj Bihari with conflict resolution. And, I do know that there are certain devotees actually confidentially in our community that are going to counseling therapy to better themselves. And I think one of the things, Prabhupada said the most important thing is to cooperate. But one of the things I think that are vitally important that I see many of these devotees that are pursuing counseling or therapy is that the relationships, not only between all of the devotees, sometimes we're all from different backgrounds and there might be a different way of, we're all Krishna conscious, but a different cultural way of approaching things. And also within the relationships of husbands and wives. Because although we're all striving in our individual and collective Krishna consciousness, affection between husband and wife is vital
Yes.
for the family and for the individual aspiring couple. And I just wondered if you'd comment on that a little bit, what your thoughts are.
Oh, I think that's a very important point, and it reminds me of a previous class where I actually spoke about that. Of course, I was repeating the words from His Holiness Radha Swami Maharaj, and I can share that link with you. I should go back to my notes. But he actually mentioned that affection in Grihastha ashram is, as you said, essential. Because when one gets married in Grihastha ashram, it's because you two are partnering to go back to Godhead together. And in order to encourage one another, you need that friendship and you need that affection. In particular, he said that the wife needs affection and encouragement from the husband. He actually said that if you're not going to have a close, loving, affectionate relationship with your spouse, with your child, what is the point of being married? Why be in that ashram? You can, he didn't say this part, but you can go live in an apartment and rent out your second bedroom to a stranger and have a roommate and you practice your Krishna consciousness, sure. But Grihastha ashram is the family unit and we're encouraging each other to go back. And of course, in my experience, I rely very heavily on the encouragement of my husband. And that's just a motivating factor to know that somebody reminds you every day that they care about you. And also when people care about you, they correct you. But then it's not painful because you know this person actually, you have so many other affectionate exchanges that you trust them. Go, okay, I know this person cares about me, just like I care about them. So they're pointing this out because I need to hear that and I need to grow. I hope that's helpful. I kind of rambled a little bit. But yes, we all, and the thing is, and we are created that way too. We are all created with this thing in our heart that needs to be appreciated and loved. And that's not false ego. We're devotees, and we should be loving each other and uplifting one another. That is pleasing to Krishna. That's the other thing His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj said in that class, was that Krishna reciprocates with you based on how you serve your spouse, because you're in Grihastha ashram. This is serious, and that's a devotee. Is that helpful?
Nice realizations. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Her Grace Mother Kunti has a question, and I think this is up for anybody who feels inspired by this question who could maybe answer. It doesn't need to be me.
Who has the question? I'm sorry.
Her Grace Mother Kunti posted this in the Bhagavatam group. She wrote, question, because she said it's a nice class about real leadership versus not valid leadership. And then she says, question is how to remain positive in a negative environment when it's not possible to leave a negative environment. So perhaps this relates to serving in a situation that doesn't seem very uplifting, but you're not able to leave. Does anyone have any thoughts or experiences on that? How to stay positive in a negative environment and serve? Did you read it? Oh, good.
You learned from Srila Prabhupada was that he was always focused on the mission of the spiritual master. And it didn't really matter where he was, who he was with, what was going on. That was always what he was doing. I met a man once named Jay Jones that bumped into Srila Prabhupada on Telegraph Avenue in 1969. And Prabhupada was going to some program with a couple of devotees. And this is back when Prabhupada used to walk from one place to another sometimes, He would even take public transportation. But he always had this mission. So Jay Jones had been two tours in Vietnam on one of those little Apocalypse Now boats going up the river. And so he just come back from Vietnam, and when he saw Prabhupada, he thought he must be a Buddhist monk that he was used to seeing in Vietnam. So he stopped Prabhupada and asked him, what, are you a monk, or are you from, where are you from, or, what's with these clothes, And Prabhupada told him that I'm on a mission from my spiritual master to spread the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra chanting all over the world. And that's all he said. They had a 5-minute conversation. And to his death, J. Jones never forgot that, He just had a couple of minutes, they say just a moment's association with pure devotee can change your whole life. So he never forgot one word Prabhupada said, and Prabhupada's, so I think that's what we learned from Prabhupada. He didn't get any help from anybody in India.
Yeah.
And we all know, how much he struggled. But one thing he kept going was always that mission, So we all have to have a mission in our life given to us by our spiritual master, and we all on different levels. It may be, one thing or another, like Prabhupada told a couple of alcoholics that you should just, your devotional service is to think about Krishna and say that when you're drinking your alcohol, you think you say this is the taste of Krishna.
Yeah.
And for somebody else, Prabhupada would say, no, you should just simply not drink alcohol.
Right.
But the individual mission from the spiritual master is the guiding principle in our life, and we all working on that. In that way, no matter what happens, that's what we're doing, and that's always the goal.
That's very nice. Thank you so much. Is anyone else with final comments?
Jai, I had one quick comment about, I believe the question was, what do you do when you're in a negative environment? And I would say, couple counseling. If it's in Grihastha ashram, or I can't emphasize it enough. I think it's a vital thing, because it's Kali Yuga and conflicts happen. But we can't stuff it. We have to confront it, the conflicts, because otherwise a negative environment does fester.
Right.
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 That's my comment. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Gokulananda Prabhu and Mishra Bhagavan Prabhu. And then I'll let you go.
I think Mishra Bhagavan Prabhu said it all, just an addition. I was thinking about following the instructions of one spiritual master, taking it very seriously. Like in Srila Prabhupada's own life, as he explained, despite of all odds, Gaudiya Math was totally dispersed, and he wasn't getting any positive response from Indians. And then 2 heart attacks, everyone knows all those odds. And
living with a crazy person in New York City.
And look at the beautiful outcome in the form of ISKCON. Then also, when I think about my spiritual master, Radhana Swami Maharaj, he had a specific instruction given to him to serve his Shiksha Guru, Kirtananda Swami. And in Mumbai, long story short, there was so much going on there at Chowpatty Temple. They were sort of ostracized. They were out of ISKCON. So many odds. But he chose to just follow the instruction of his spiritual master, which was to serve Kirtananda Swami. And we can see the outcome today.
Thank you. Mishra Bhagavan Prabhu.
I just wanted to mention that when it came to fighting amongst devotees, Srila Prabhupada, he didn't care what the issue was. To him, the whole problem was that they were fighting. Almost exactly 49 years ago to this week, I was with a friend of mine in Seattle. His name was Sukadev, and him and the GBC of Hawaii. He was the temple president in Hawaii, and Guru Kripa was the GBC. And they both had like a group. And they had a terrible fallout, you know, with each other. That actually even got a little physical, a little whackety smack, you know. So then Sukadev came to Seattle, and that's where I was at the time. And he writes a letter to Srila Prabhupada, you know. So I was with him when he wrote the letter to Prabhupada. And then he sends it off to Prabhupada, you know, kind of like the note in the bottle, you know. And then we're standing next to the mailbox for the next 2 weeks waiting for Prabhupada's reply, and it came. And Prabhupada said, you say one thing, and Guru Kripa says another. So what can I say? You're there in Seattle. Just be satisfied and serve Krishna there. And Guru Kripa can serve Krishna in Hawaii. And in this way, we'll all just serve Krishna in harmony. And that was the letter. And he'd written a long letter to Prabhupada, you know. And the answer was like 3 sentences. But fighting is a big distraction from our mission. And sometimes devotees, while we're squabbling over things like kartals and little things, you know, where this and that should be in the Bajari room, and you know, the things that devotees fight about, it really erodes our relationship with one another, and I think we lose the appreciation for the devotees. So, you know, for Prabhupada, it was, you know, he said, if you're fighting, how can you manage? Period. So I was just wondering, you know, how can we uplift, you know, and not have these squabbles, because they can get pretty bad, you know. One time in New York, I was waiting for the elevator, which works sometimes, in 55th Street, you know, on the big skyscraper. And there was 2 devotees, Vishvareda and Subhuti Roy. And they had gotten into an argument over something. I don't know what. But I was standing there waiting for the elevator, and when the doors opened, these 2 devotees were in a rock'em sock'em smack out fight, you know, inside the elevator. It was like, you know, they were having this boxing match. And then the doors closed, you know, and I waited for the elevator.
Wait for the next one.
Yeah, that one's taken. Or another time, I was, in March 1976, I was walking up the stairs in the Lotus building in Mayapur. And Chiru Prabhu was right in front of me, you know, Salt Lake City Chiru. So he's going up the stairs, and he was having some kind of fight with devotees over Australia and New Zealand, that southeast area, between Siddha Sarup and his follower, Sudama Vipra. And there was like, you know, different camps. And so this is 20 feet away from Srila Prabhupada's door. It was Prabhupada in the room. And Chiru's walking up, and Sudama Vipra, he's a big guy. He's got a lot of tattoos. Looks like he maybe spent a little time behind bars, you know. But he, you know, he was a sannyasi, and he was so he was part of one of the groups. So Chiru's coming up the stairs. Maharaj is coming down the stairs, and suddenly he just goes, boom, and hit Chiru in the stomach, his solar plexus, and then Chiru just folded up and rolled down the stairs. And I was like, everybody was just, we were stunned, you know, and actually it was just what to do. And then, so, you know, Prabhupada was right there, and then they went into his room. Prabhupada, you know, this just happened out there in the stairs, you know. And Prabhupada just said, that Sudama Vipra, he's a gunda. And that's all he said about it. And he didn't get involved. So, yeah, that's what I'm just saying. You know, how can we, you know, I hate to have another how-to question, but you know, we always want to know how to de-escalate these things and make it so that we're not fighting.
Well, Prabhu, thank you. When are you going to give class? Well, I'll say a couple things. We've gone way over time. I don't mind. Just thank you all so much for this discussion. And I will say a couple things. First thing, I did hear His Holiness Kadambakanana Swami Maharaj say in a class regarding conflict among devotees. He said, when the two people are fighting and having conflict, that's two people's fault. It's the fault of the person who did the fault finding, and it's the fault of the second person who was unable to tolerate. He said that. My mother always said to me and my brother, it takes two people to tango. So you can't be doing this dance on your own. You both have your part to play in this dance. The other thing I will say is I am reminded, Prabhuji, when you're speaking all these incredible pastimes and devotees, fighting, you reminded me of a story in I'll Build You a Temple by His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj, who he had one god brother, I don't know if I should say his name, although the name is there in the book, who was head of the garden. And of course, His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj was basically temple president of this temple that wasn't even built yet. But there was a lot of conflict. They just never saw eye to eye. And this other Prabhu, he was one who was very passionate, I'll say that. Anyway, at one point, he spat in Giriraj Swami's face. His god brother spat in his face. And how did Giriraj Swami respond? He chanted Hare Krishna and he walked away. And he didn't write to Prabhupada. He didn't call Prabhupada and tell him this had happened. He continued on in his service. Eventually, what ended up happening is this other Prabhu had a big, major, public conflict where he ended up chasing another godbrother with a bat or some kind of weapon, and he did it in the property of the Jew and the villagers saw it, and this created a big, poor impression of Hare Krishnas, and these people were already suspicious of Hare Krishnas, and Prabhupada found out about it, and he sent a telegram. It just said, what was his name? Just said, I'm going to say his name. Send Narayan back to America, stop. That was it. So when it became public and it was creating a bad name for ISKCON that is obviously going to prevent people from serving, Prabhupada took action. So those are my thoughts on all of this. The real thing to do is to walk away. How do you do that? I even brought that story up to His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj, and he just said, well, I just pray. He said, I just prayed, and I think he said in that moment I remembered Srila Prabhupada. I know, it's way over time. This is a wonderful discussion. Maybe we should have a separate breakout talk on this. And maybe, my husband has connections. Maybe we could ask His Grace Vrajri Hari Prabhu to do a workshop on conflict resolution the next time he comes to Dallas. But for now, thank you all so much for tolerating me and for informing me and teaching me. So thank you, devotees. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.